And I'm back. Welcome again to day 2 of the Get Design Clients Challenge. I'm using a brand new microphone, so I hope you can all hear me. And we'll see what happens. But I wanted to share how excited I am that I just got 2 really great client leads this morning at a talk I gave at the local library, which I'd had set up for a couple weeks to make sure that the library could get the word out so that I could tell people what's going on. And I ended up with 7 people there, which is actually a pretty good showing for just a talk like this on a Tuesday morning. And a lot of the people that were there were master gardeners, which is just a great group of people to be talking with. Master gardeners in the US are a group of people who have done an extensive amount of training to be able to learn how to garden in their area. And I can't see who it is, but whoever's there, if you could let me know if you can hear me, that would be awesome, because I'm using a brand new microphone here and testing that out. So I was just talking about this talk I gave this morning and how I got a couple really great client leads from it. One woman who said, you know, I'm traveling up to Alaska right now for a few weeks, but you're just absolutely perfect, and I really want to do a design with you when you get back. And part of the reason it was really easy for people to say, yes, I want to actually do a design with you, was because I told them what I do, and I spoke through the lens of being a designer through that entire hour talk that I gave to them. And I was also allowed them to ask a lot of questions, which not only helps them understand that I know a lot about what they want to learn about edible and native landscaping, it's that we're also able to understand as designers what our clients don't know and what they really want to learn. And that's always incredibly important to understand about your client, you know, whatever business you're in, is to understand not only the issues that they're having and what problems they want you to solve, because that's the only reason anyone ever hires a consultant, is to solve problems, but it's also going to tell you the language that your clients are using to be able to not necessarily speak in exactly the same language, but to talk to people in an approachable way where you're not, you know, trying to be a know-it-all, but you're also talking to them about the problems that they know they have and speaking to them in a way that they understand that you get where they're at and that you can actually help them get to another place. So I'd love it if you guys dropped in some questions. If you can let me know if you can hear me, that would be phenomenal, using my new microphone. But, you know, as long as we don't have any questions popping up, I'm just going to go into some of the notes I had for today. So I hope you all were able to look through the email I sent for today. It talks a broad overview about how to think about repurposing some of your knowledge that you already have. Okay, awesome, Marion. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Hello and welcome. Great to see you here. So repurposing your content, I'll call it. When we think of content, we often think of online articles, videos, things like that, but especially if you're a designer working in your locality, I would suggest that you think about doing a lot of things that are hands-on with the people that you want to be working with. And granted, some of you are interested in promoting online based design businesses or some other type of service that you're offering online that's delivered in some way digitally. But one great way to actually help people understand how to do things in their own yard and make sure that you're attracting people who are really engaged with their landscape and with permaculture is to provide these workshops. And maybe that's in person, maybe it's online. But I was able to find out through just asking the audience that was there at my talk this morning, what would you guys like to learn? I asked them at the beginning, I let them ask questions throughout. So I was able to build my knowledge for free while I was giving them this talk. But then at the end, I also asked, you know, what else would you guys like me to talk about? Because they asked if I was going to give another talk. And by the way, I was almost paralyzingly nervous for the past week about giving this talk because I've only lived in Florida for a little less than 2 months now. And, you know, so I had what we call imposter syndrome. And a lot of people have this, whether you're in college, you're starting a new job or whatever. We feel like, why would anyone listen to me? Why would anyone want to pay me to do designs? I'm some kind of imposter. People are going to find me out and realize that I don't actually have the knowledge or the skills that I claim I do. So that type of stuff was going through my head. And, you know, I don't know. I'm guessing I put on a persona of confidence when I'm talking here with you guys, but I definitely was pretty anxious and a little freaked out at times about giving this talk, which it seems silly now, but as long as you're sharing what you're passionate about and interested in, I don't see how there could be a way that people wouldn't appreciate the enthusiasm with which you're talking about a certain subject that's dear to you. And of course, you're going to know a fair amount about that subject because you're so interested in it. It becomes natural to do that. So it was great to be able to talk with these people because I got information from them about what they'd like to learn and what they would attend if I provided it. And that turned out to be a composting workshop. And I happen to have a friend nearby who I'm helping design an urban farm for. We have a composting site there, and we can easily get something like that going and also get something done on the ground for my friend at the same time as we host this workshop, which is kind of has become the model of permaculture workshops today. Is you have a bunch of people pay or come for free to any type of workshop. I would recommend having people pay something at least to help support you, help support the place that's hosting it. But then people can also help in an easy way, have a couple simple steps of a larger project that's prepared already on site for people to be able to help with that step that you might need more people for. And you can also show by example and by action on the ground what's actually happening. So being such a visual industry, visual system way of thinking, especially as it pertains to landscapes and buildings, doing these permaculture workshops, even if you're doing something online, having a lot of visual how this came together is really helpful. But initially, getting in front of people and providing something that you think that they're going to appreciate, such as my talk on edible and native landscaping for Florida, which is actually kind of hard to find in this area, people were really drawn to that. And then once I get them in a room, then we can discuss and I can learn much more about them. And then eventually, lead into some design work, which I was able to do. The way I was able to actually do that today is that at the end of my talk, not only did I talk about myself as, I would say, as a landscape designer, I think about such and such this way during my talk. So it's continually reiterated, not in a salesy way. It's just a natural way of me being who I am, telling people that I view things through the lens of a designer, and I can make sense of a lot of things that are usually very confusing for a lot of people who would otherwise kind of be lost in their landscape or their permaculture project. So while I did that during the actual talk itself, at the end of the talk, I offered people a slight discount to be able to do a design with me. So we're talking about offering some type of incentive to either attend something or to buy something, etc. And in this case, I was offering an incentive. It could be anything. It could be, a free fruit tree if you do a design with us, whatever you might consider someone might find valuable. And people really lit up at that. Not only were they already interested in working with me as a designer, but I also offer free hour consultations to initially get to understand people. And there are many people who charge for their initial consultation. For me, at this point in my business, I've only been running it for a couple of years. I really want to make sure that, I'm bringing new clients in, especially the people who are coming to this kind of talk who I want to work with. So I want to make sure that, I'm providing some incentive for them. I'm also not giving too much. It's kind of an intuitive thing. You got to feel things out and think to yourself, okay, is what I'm offering as an incentive, say 10% off my design package, does that work with my finances? Does that work with how I feel? Am I going to feel valued as a designer? Is the client going to value what I do based on the types of discounts or freebies I'm giving? And how much time does it take me to include something extra in a design or another service or product that you're offering? So that really helped a lot. And another great thing that I'll talk about tomorrow in the email as well is getting people's contact info, because if you don't get their contact information, a lot of people just forget about you. Not because they don't want to work with you, but a business card might get lost in a pile of paper or whatnot. So I have a sign-in sheet for people, and I say, if you sign up on this sign-in sheet, I'll send an email out. Not only can they get tips on edible landscaping from me, but they'll get the resources that I had up on the screen. They'll get some notes so they didn't have to take notes. It saves them time so they can really listen to me during the talk. And then there's an incentive for them to sign up, and I get their contact information so I can reach out to schedule consultations. And it seems potentially complex, but it's pretty straightforward. In order to get in touch with someone, you need their contact info. And you can't expect people to reach out spontaneously, because there may be a lot of other things going on in their life that keeps them from doing that, and will eventually keep them and you from, working together to be able to actually solve some of the problems they have and uncover problems they didn't even know they had, which you'll be able to see. Being a permaculture designer, it's a much different way of thinking than most people are using when they're looking at their landscape, their buildings, their business, depending on what you're consulting on. So, Marion, if you have any questions, or if anyone else would like to drop anything in, that would be awesome, so I can address exactly what's on your mind. So I had this client attraction strategy that I have been talking about creating, and we'll start to build that over the course of this week together. So we're starting out with looking at the types of content that you can create, the types of information that you already have potentially in another form that would be very easily modified into something useful for people. Maybe it's already in a form that would be useful for people. What I did with my talk today at the library was that I took the free email course, Design Your Edible Landscape, which a number of you are getting because of an email glitch in my email list that gave you that course, which is actually for homeowners, but I think it'll be really helpful for you too, so you can understand what I would personally lead people through in the very beginnings of the design process. But since I have that created for homeowners, who's coming to my talk on edible landscapes today is people who own or rent a home. That's awesome, Marion. Working with local nurseries is great. I have some friends I made at local nurseries in Portland, Oregon when I was there, and I was able to, post flyers at their nursery. They would hand them out to people, and I was able to do workshops at the nursery as well. I also shot some videos with some different plants in front of me talking about the plants. We posted that on YouTube, and it's really great forming these referral networks with other businesses, because you're able to use their clientele, their audience, and vice versa. When you're working with clients, you could send them to the nursery to get their plants. It's just a wonderful way to just add a ton of value to both businesses, and for that experience for the client just to be a lot easier. And they're going between two people or, multiple points of people that they really trust. So as I change topics a lot, thank you for bearing with me. What I did with this Design Your Edible Landscape free course was that I repurposed that into the talk that I gave today. So that's the type of an example of what I'm talking about in that day 2 email I just sent out this morning, is that being able to repurpose something you've already created saves you a lot of time. It's often going to be directly applicable to your audience, especially once you find your niche. So my niche right now is residential homeowners who want an edible and native landscape. And there's a lot of other, wants and needs that go along with that. But since I have this overarching niche, I'm able to do everything, all the resources I create, the marketing that I put out, the design process that I use is all, funneled under that niche. So it's all applicable to the same one thing. And I'm able to become very, very good at marketing to, selling to, delivering designs to, interacting with these residential homeowners who have an interest in edible and native landscaping. So since I have that niche, I was able to repurpose that Design Your Edible Landscape email course into the talk that I made. And I had spent probably a couple hours worth of time over the week beforehand thinking about, how am I going to have the time to create this talk for people? I'm going to have to create it all from scratch because I just moved to Florida, blah, 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 whatever. But I realized once I actually took a breath, stopped thinking so busily about things and let things settle, and maybe spend some time outside gardening, something like that, the thought came to me, why don't I just use that email course and turn that into a talk for people? And it worked out beautifully. I hardly had to write any of it. I didn't even practice it before I went. And that's the type of thing that can happen when you find a niche and you're so specified within a group of people who you know are a viable market for permaculture design. Things become a lot easier. They become design and speaking with people becomes a lot more natural and intuitive because you're just in the zone with that specific group of people. And granted, all residential homeowners are not the same, but they all have similar interests. They're all interested in minimizing the amount of maintenance they have to do, or they want to get more out of their landscape. They are interested in providing for wildlife. They don't want to use as much water because it's expensive. There are all these different things that we can start to identify as the needs, wants, and desires of those people that we can then tailor all of our educational material, our marketing to. And really what it comes down to is that your educational material is your marketing system for being a professional permaculture designer once you have a niche, because it's just so amazing when you're able to take your skills, your passion, and just teach people about it, and that becomes your marketing. The people you want to work with are drawn to a workshop on how to plant companion plants for fruit trees, or how to build a cob bench in your backyard and have it last for 10 years. You know exactly what people want because you're interacting with them all the time, since they're interested in what you have to teach. And then you don't have to spend time saying, well, you should buy this because this. It's not about that. It's about, this is how I can help you, and let's figure out if we're a good fit to work together. And it's just as simple as that. And granted, there are some other things within that, such as figuring out how to write proposals, how to do contracts, things like that I included in the professional permaculture designer course that's coming up in September. But really what it comes down to at its most basic level is making sales feel as natural as possible. And what feels more natural than being yourself and talking with people who are interested in what you're passionate about? You're automatically going to get along with a lot of these people. And you'll also start to notice different types of people and their behavior around you. There may be some signs of certain people you might not want to work with, people who maybe don't listen to you very clearly, who aren't very patient, things like that. Those could be signs that someone may not be an ideal client for you. You'll start to be able to recognize those natural, deeper, kind of clearer connections between you and another individual or group of people that really feels right and like things are in the flow, so that you'll have a healthy working relationship. So as always, please post your questions and comments in the comment area. And let's see how else I can tell you about stuff. So what I am continually amazed at in any industry is how the simplest of information can be so useful and groundbreaking for people. So I talk a lot about mulching, covering the soil using ground covers, living manures, green manures, wood chips, straw, depending on the climate, whatever might actually work, whatever's available and is inexpensive, leaving clippings on the ground, things like that, since I'm focused on landscapes, and creating low maintenance gardens that also do well, especially in the climate of Florida where there's sandy soils. I know what some of the issues people are having around these sandy soils are, and I know that a solution is mulch. So building on what I'm talking about, seeing the needs and wants and what we call the burning pains of our clients, and being able to address them, and being able to address them with mulch is pretty funny and awesome. But I was talking about mulch this morning and about just leaving your clippings and some of your weeds, either composting them or just putting them on the surface of the soil. And some people were just like really nodding like, oh man, that makes a ton of sense. Like, add organic matter and it's already there. Some of these really simple things. Or, if you're into doing aquaponics systems, just talking about how much money somebody can save on their inputs if they have a business, or if they are just trying to make ends meet with subsistence living, being able to understand where people are coming from and then providing some insights. They don't have to be complex, and actually the more detailed insights are going to be harder for people to grasp unless you maybe spent the time creating some visual aids. And that's actually another aspect of, doing presentations or offering articles, things like that, is that if you can address different people's learning styles, such as auditory, reading, or visual or tactile, tangible. That's one reason why in-person workshops are so effective for a lot of permaculture designers to get clients, is that we're able to teach people so effectively because we're in person with them, or if it's online, we're able to show them some really quick wins, some simple to-dos. Say if they're starting a compost pile, go grab your lawn clippings, spread them out, then grab some brown matter and do that, and then come back tomorrow. And people are able to do something very quickly, and they're able to then realize, oh, wow, because we're addressing the visual, the tactile, the auditory, etc. We have a built-in learning system and a built-in way for people to get quick results from what we're talking about. And the more detailed you get, the sooner you'll often lose people, especially in what you'll be providing for the most part, unless you're in a very technical niche within permaculture design. You'll be providing more general information. So you're going to provide more of an overview of things, which makes things a lot easier. And such as, Marion here works with community gardeners, which is wonderful because there are so many people who are into growing food and into their health and connecting that. They have already connected that in their minds, usually with, growing food and meeting other like-minded people. But a lot of them, even if they're really experienced, there are definitely aspects of permaculture design that will help those experienced gardeners. But I noticed in my community garden in Portland, Oregon earlier this summer when we were still there, that there were so many people who just wanted to know more about, how do I not plant too much? How do I plant the right stuff at the right time of year? I've heard this and this. And it's just so wonderful because it's so easy to help those people if you're, experienced in gardening or whatever they might be asking you about. It is so easy to make such a big difference in people's lives, and it feels so good because it's all centered around food or healthier living or providing for the earth and its people. So any place, like a community garden or community organizations such as a YMCA or a senior center, different places where there are people who, depending on your niche. For me, I want to make sure that people are homeowners, whoever I'm talking to, because they're usually the people who are paying for design. But there are a lot of other groups that you can find in your area or online where people are already congregated. And that's really what you want to use to start out your business, are these places where there's already an existing audience. So a community garden would already have an existing member base, and then you just have to either hang out there or send out a message to the leader of the community garden and say, hey, I'd like to give an hour talk on tomatoes and how to plant, or how to fertilize properly so that you're not wasting fertilizer and getting runoff into the local streams, things like that. And by the way, I'd like you to think about very holistically with anything that I'm talking about. So when I say contact the leader of the community garden, you can extrapolate that to any other organization or group you're trying to get into, to be able to offer some education to. So if I was really interested in helping people to install solar panels, I might take a look at, contacting the local energy company, or looking at the Solar Energy Association of the state or country that I live and work in, and being able to go straight to the leader of the organization, tell them how you'd like to help them, help their audience, and then that will in turn help you. So it's all about providing the benefit and showing the people who are not only your clients, but who are the people who are the gatekeeper, I like to call them, like the leader of an organization, or the first person you have to talk to at the front desk of a local fitness center or, grocery store or whatever it is. Being able to show them the benefit of what they get out of it, rather than saying, I'd like to do this because I, it's about you. Everyone wants to hear about them and how they're going to benefit from what you have to offer. And that doesn't mean that you're going to be taken for granted. But it means that it's that much easier for them to say yes, because it's already put in the language of how they might be thinking of, themselves. We're all more self-centered than focused on what other people want or need at any given time for the most part. So that can help a lot. So what I'm going to leave you guys with today, and feel free to put in more questions and I'll keep going for a while, but I really want you to think about how you can repurpose something very simple that you're interested in that you've already done. Maybe it's a paper you wrote, a local article for the newspaper, or maybe it's just a project you've been working on in your backyard that you think other people could benefit from, especially in this case, those people who you think would be interested in your permaculture designs. And I just want you to think about what that might be, what topic that might be right now, and put that in your notebook or your document on your computer that you're working with, keeping notes for the Design Clients Challenge, because then you can look back at things. So Kyle says he can't seem to get the video to play. That's too bad. I wonder what's happening. Kyle, let me know if you can hear me at any point. We'll see what happens, but I know all of you will be able to view this recording once I'm done here. So thinking about what you can offer that you've already created, just make things as easy as possible for yourself at this point. Spend a few minutes writing down 3 to 5 ideas about the types of things that you know that you'd be excited to share with other people. Don't worry about the fear of getting up in front of a group, teaching people and what they might think of you, judgments, all that stuff. I'd like you to, for as best as you can, just remove yourself from any thoughts that come up that might stop you from actually doing these things, and get the ideas out. Share them in the group if you'd like to, and it'll be more helpful if you do share those things that you're planning to do or that you'd like to create an educational piece of material, video, article, workshop, whatever from, and we can all talk about it and start to actually get ourselves out there beyond what we've already been doing, because I know all of you are here because you want to grow your business. So let's do it together. Let's take advantage of having this big community here. We've already got over 80 people in this group, and you're all really interested in being professional permaculture designers and or growing your business even more than it is already. So with that, I'm going to sign off for today. I will be around and checking the group. Marion, thanks for hanging out. Kyle, I hope you get to see this later. Thanks for shouting out, and I wish you guys all a wonderful day, but I also just want to make sure that whatever you do, make sure you're so excited about it that you could do it every day and you would never feel tired. And I'm not saying burn yourself out. I'm not saying work 24/7. I'm just saying, since I've found to be edible landscaping and working with homeowners to be so rewarding and fulfilling, and working with you guys to be so awesome, and I get so much out of it that I can just do it. I just keep thinking about ideas to help the people that I'm working with, and it just makes life so much fun, and work becomes a joy. So I'll leave you with that for today. Thank you very much, Marion, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.